Yo, what is up, family? Here we are, my first movie review of 2019, and yes, I know it's already March, but hey, life has a way of throwing this little thing called a curveball, but nevertheless, here we are.
It's really cute the way you try to make it seem this isn't a regular thing with you, FM.
Well, I missed you too, Marv. Anyway, here we are to review Marvel Studios' Captain Marvel. So far, this has probably been the most polarizing movie since Justice League and, dare I say, Batman v Superman.
So what you're saying is that they're just misunderstood.
Look, I'm just giving my 2 cents and my initial breakdown of the film and all of that. So anyway, if you guys are new to the channel, movie reviews pretty much go with a simple structure. You get the good, the bad, a little bit of spoiler talk, and then my overall thoughts and score. So anyway, without any more stalling, let's review Captain Marvel. The movie wastes no time getting to the point where we already see Carol already settled in as a Kree warrior on this alien planet, and you see a bit of the camaraderie with her in Jude Law's character. And even up to this point, you only get like a few glimpses of Carol's backstory, which eventually the movie builds up to.
So is this movie an origin story or not?
Yeah, it's still very much an origin story. I just think the way they handled it in this movie is that they're just focusing on the present day things and kind of using past elements to kind of be those building blocks for, building the character. Carol Danvers as a character is like, if you knew her in real life, she would pretty much be like one of the homies, just like somebody that you were pretty cool with, and she really seems like a really cool character, a cool person to necessarily be around. And I found that interesting because of the fact that she didn't know she was from Earth, and she pretty much assimilated into Kree culture, by, whatever means there were. But it's like she still had that thing about her that just made her, in my opinion, made her likable. That's just where I'm coming from with it.
And you're not just saying that because you're afraid you will be seen as sexist, right?
No, Marv, I am not, okay? I have friends that have a similar demeanor as Carol, and they are really cool people to hang around. So overall, I like Carol. I like what Brie brought to this character and how they kind of moved it along. It wasn't necessarily perfect, but it did a good enough job for me to be invested enough in it. So I like Carol. We, of course, get introduced to young Nick Fury, which brings a really interesting dynamic along with Carol's character because, again, she doesn't know who she is. She lands on Earth. She doesn't know any type of customs on Earth. So there's like this fish out of water dynamic that's there that I thought was really entertaining. And it kind of takes on the form of a buddy cop film when that part happens, which I thought was actually pretty cool. And again, because this movie takes place in the 90s, I couldn't help but get a similar feel from watching parts of Lethal Weapon.
Aha, so they sparked the nostalgia junkie in you, huh?
Oh yeah, there was enough 90s nostalgia in this movie to satiate your appetite. Like, it wasn't necessarily overdone to like the point of, say, Ready Player One, where there was essentially a reference like every 2 minutes, but there was just enough there to where it's like, oh yeah, I remember that time. I think this movie had a really good supporting cast as well. Like, when they introduced some of the characters from the Kree Warriors, they had a different dynamic, which I thought was pretty cool. It was a couple of returning characters from Guardians of the Galaxy, if you're familiar, and some of the, the interactions between them were entertaining. Also, when they introduced Maria Rambeau, who, if you're familiar with comic book lore, she's the mother of Monica Rambeau, who was essentially another successor of Captain Marvel, or Photon, or Spectrum. If you know, you know. But when they introduced her and they showed the type of friendship that she and Carol had and some of the other things that took place later on in the movie, like she was badass, you know, alongside Carol being badass in her way, of course, with her having powers. But I really thought that was cool, and I enjoyed when they introduced her. And then there's the cat. Oh my goodness, the cat. Okay. If you have been keeping up with some of the early articles about the movie, about how the cat supposedly steals the show, well, that wasn't entirely wrong. In hindsight, I thought that everybody brought a really good presence to the film for the characters. The story, although a bit shaky, I think was solid enough to kind of put the pieces together. And just overall, I thought it's competent. It's not hard to follow as long as you're paying attention. Far too often since the movie came out, I think there were a few things that were being overlooked because of whatever preconceived biases they may have. But, you know, when things worked, it worked for me. And that's all I can really say. I think it's solid and competent enough to tell the story of this new character that we are eventually going to see again, obviously. So that's all I can really say.
You're one to talk about preconceived biases considering you've been on the MCU high since 2008.
Doesn't mean I can't be critical where it counts, okay? So get off my back, Marv. So we've gotten all the good things I liked about the movie out of the way. So let's go over to some of the things I probably didn't like that much. One of the things that I felt was missing was, I think, on a bit of a cultural level, like as far as Carol being on the Kree planet, I think it was called Hala or something like that. It was, I don't know, I kept thinking Valhalla every time I heard it. But anyway, I think that we probably could have gotten a little bit more in depth with the Kree culture, or at the very least, the Skrull culture, since that they were kind of the main antagonists. Like, not a whole lot, but just enough to where it's like, okay, I can see where all that is coming from and things. And, you know, even from a certain character that was revealed in the movie, I'm not going to say too much because it, you know, requires spoiling it, but there wasn't much of a background for that character. We just know that that character was trying to do something good, and, you know, things happen, and, you know, that's where it goes from there.
Yes, sir, that's just what we need, a dissertation on every aspect of this movie.
Look, there's nothing wrong with wanting a little bit more depth when it comes to certain elements of the movie. Parts of the movie that I found interesting on the Kree side, pretty much the alien side, is that I would have liked a little bit more depth with them. And I just felt that that was a bit of a missed opportunity, but at the same time, I get what they were trying to do. It's not like they weren't explaining who was doing what, the reasons for this, that, and the other. Like, the explanations were there. So, but I just wish I would have gotten a little bit more out of it. There was a few moments where I think the tonal shift was a bit drastic from the previous one, and it just didn't transition as well. Like, it didn't happen a whole lot. The thing is, I had to watch the movie a second time to kind of really get everything in and really be able to break the movie down through my point of view. But, you know, when the transitions worked, they worked. When they didn't, it was kind of noticeable, but it wasn't horrible.
Aha, so you're saying that the movie wasn't perfect.
Although there are some movies that are perfect in my heart, no. Like, no movie is ever really perfect. That's all I have for the bad. So now we're going into a bit of spoiler territory. So if you have not seen the movie, you will see said time pop up here, and you can just go to my final thoughts and my score and all those wonderful things, and you're not in my DMs trying to bite my head off talking about that I should have warned you. So there's no excuse for it. So here we go. Spoiler talk. Let's get into it. So eventually there's a plot twist in the movie where it wasn't the Skrulls that were the real antagonists. It was actually the Kree. And some people felt a certain way about making the Skrulls not antagonists, even though, I mean, the only thing I will say is that being a comic book reader, there was a sect of Skrulls that were not violent. So all Skrulls are not bad guys, but, you know, obviously we see Skrulls, we think bad guys, especially if you're a comic book reader. But hey, it was flipped on that. It was actually the Kree people that were bad. Watching the movie a second time and really looking at it, I was able to see the different demeanor that the Skrulls had versus the Kree, because even early on, like, the Skrulls were a bit more forthcoming when it comes to information versus the Kree characters, and they were kind of secretive, not really giving, you know, all the details or whatever. So they were kind of giving you signs early on that, the Skrulls aren't what they appear to be. So I guess they were using that figuratively and literally, considering they're shapeshifters. Also, there was the reveal that, for the comic book readers, that Mar-Vell, who in comic book lore was the original Captain Marvel, and, well, I mean, Mar-Vell's a woman in this movie. It's that they've did that gender flip on there once again, which I wasn't really tripping about, because for plot's sake, it did what it was supposed to do. So I wasn't tripping on that at all. The plot was that Mar-Vell was a secret operative that went to Earth and was supposed to be developing something for the betterment of the Kree Empire, but somewhere she had a change of heart, and she were essentially helping Skrulls survive. And lo and behold, you know, somehow, whatever, she came across the Tesseract, experimented with the Tesseract, created this engine from it, which essentially gave Carol her powers because of circumstances. And Carol originally thought that she was shot down by the Skrulls, but it was actually the Kree dude, Jude Law's character, basically. And it was just, I thought it was an interesting enough twist. And having that dynamic to where she's still trying to piece together parts of her life that she was long forgotten, and having it rewritten, and her being told that she was, you know, that she was just always Kree and all this, that, the other, whatever. It's like, it's basically just her trying to overcome the mind games. And I thought it worked. I didn't really have an issue with it. So in an effort not to try to spend too much time on the spoilers, I'm just going to run a few things down really quick that I thought was really cool as far as reveals. Obviously, they show the origins of Nick Fury coming up with the Avengers Initiative, which was pretty much a direct correlation with Carol's nickname as a fighter pilot, which was Avenger. So that's how the Avengers Initiative came to be, which I thought was actually kind of cool. And plus, we, you know, heard the theme a little bit when he was typing it in. So it was like, yeah, let's go. So as I said before, they managed to find the Tesseract, which it essentially explains how S.H.I.E.L.D. got their hands on the Tesseract and everything else that followed. So it's lining the pieces up from what we know if you've been following the films all this time. And the last thing to talk about is it kind of hurt my heart a little bit, but I'm gonna talk about it. So the Marvel Studios logo at the beginning that we know is just showing the culmination of all the different films. Well, this one they had it was essentially a Stan Lee tribute. So it was a culmination of like all the different cameos he's had in the movies over the years. And it was just like the theme came rolling in. You see all the different, you know, clips from the stuff with Stan. And then it says, "Thank you, Stan," right before the movie starts. And it's just like, Godspeed, my friend. Then, of course, the actual cameo he had, which I think had captured a lot of 90s kids' hearts, was Stan Lee was on the transit train and he was reading the Mallrats script, okay? Dude, like, I'm pretty sure Kevin Smith was probably crying his eyes out when he saw that. Just, oh man. Oh, okay. All right. I'm okay. I'm done. Let's just move on to my final thoughts. I'm good. My final thoughts on the movie are this. Is this movie extra spectacular? Is it fantastic? No. Is it good? Yes. Is it terrible? I'm sorry. Regardless of how people feel after seeing it, whatever the case may be, this movie is nowhere near as terrible as people are making it out to be. If it's your cup of tea, it's your cup of tea. If it ain't, just leave it at that. Don't try to make this seem like it's the worst MCU movie ever made, because it's not even the worst within the MCU films by any stretch. Like, the way that I feel as far as like people are receiving this movie, it basically feels like the Man of Steel of the MCU.
Wait. Are you telling me that you actually like a DC movie?
Okay, Marv, I don't know how far behind the curve you are, but if a movie is good, it's good. It doesn't matter what company makes it, okay? Yes, I'm one of the people that actually liked Man of Steel, okay? I don't think the movie deserved as much hate as it had, because at the end of it all, there was potential there, but, you know, then we had BVS to follow it, and, you know, if you guys been following my channel, y'all can go back and look at that damn near docu-series that I was talking about that, because I had a lot to say about that movie, but that's neither here nor there. But, like I said, overall, I think the movie was solid. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't blow your socks off, but it was an entertaining, nostalgic 90s ride. It did what it was supposed to do, and I found it to be pretty enjoyable. I'm just doing my best to be objective in this review, but overall, I think it's a solid film. I think it's a fun film. I think you should go see it. So, with all that being said, Marvel Studios' Captain Marvel gets my marvelous score of 7.5 out of 10. Initially, the movie was an 8, but there were a little bit more things that I noticed on the second viewing that, I mean, obviously it's a little bit less, so like it just kind of hindered, but it doesn't really take away from the overall core of the movie. It's still very solid. I still think it's an enjoyable film. It's definitely should be a fun movie for your kids to see. So, you know, I think it's definitely worth the price of admission. And, you know, if you haven't seen it yet, just give it a shot. Just give the movie a shot. You really don't have anything to lose, okay? And plus, you know, I mean, Endgame is pretty much like a month and like a week and a half away. So, yeah, I mean, that's my thoughts. That's it.
Still couldn't get the MCU lollipop out your mouth.
Whatever you say, my pessimistic counterpart. Anyway, guys, that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And, you know, leave some comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the movie if you saw it. You know, I enjoy having the dialogue because, I mean, hey, this is, you know, this is fun stuff to talk about, okay? So let's have the dialogue. As usual, family, y'all can help a brother out by liking, subscribing, all those wonderful things, and I will check with you guys in my next video. In the meantime, I do have some more stuff coming, you know, especially trying to compile the movies that I've seen between the last time I did a review and this review, and I have a lot of catching up to do, so somehow I'm going to compile all of that.
You really think people care about what you think? Nobody care what you think.
Well, anyway, until next time, keep following my advice to go nerd, but nerd responsibly. This is your boy, Fallen Marvel.
And I am the hibernated Marv.
And family, we out. Deuces.